All right. Well, somebody give me the high sign if I get the boot here. I really apologize for the hang up, you guys. Uh, Reason being, as I just kind of told Haven, is that yeah, I'm trying to do this on my personal account because Lallemand let me go last week.
Oh,
Shoot.
that's our company right now,
Whoa.
unfortunately.
And I don't
Sorry.
know, and I don't know about let me go, but they eliminated my position due to economic conditions and the restructuring of the North American team. So, but I've been
Dang. I
I've been fucking looking forward to this. So I didn't want to cancel. And if I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go out with a bang with you guys. I appreciate your patience and indulging me this moment. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Hey,
Appreciate
yes.
it.
Thank you, Brian. I'm so sorry to hear that, man. You have been such a huge partner with this club, and I don't think we would have gotten where we were without you and Lallemand. And I am so bummed for you to hear that, because they made a big mistake. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, well, whatever. I mean, multinational corporate, outfits are going to do their thing, and I'm not entirely surprised. Like the writing has been on the wall for a while, but I've been doing this shit for 34 years now, and I'm not going anywhere,
Right.
right? I wouldn't want to, nor could I do anything else. I've got a couple of retirement jobs in mind. One is like being a snowcat groomer up on the mountain here because I'm on Mount Hood. The other one is being Bill Murray from Caddyshack, the degenerate, greenskeeper. But no, I'm not done with the beer thing yet. So again, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to, take this minute with you guys, because it's been, a boon for me to be able to talk to this group specifically, because I think what you guys are doing is really what homebrew needs right now. Is a passionate group of people, that love the art, the science, the history of beer, are willing to delve into it, more than your average bear. Um, uh, I I love and fear homebrewers, right? The craft guys, the commercial guys, you know what you're getting into, like they need to turn a buck, they're in it for the business, understand all that. You can't necessarily brew what you want to do. You have to brew what you have to, in order to basically keep your shit in the black and make just freeze up.
Oh,
Hang on a second.
there, we can hear you.
All right.
Feel free to turn off your video too if that's bogging up your bandwidth.
Yeah, that might be it here. Can you still hear me?
Yep, crystal clear.
All right. So, that's good because I don't necessarily have like a bunch of slides or PowerPoint presentation, to dump on you guys, but I did want to take the minute to say thank you for letting me come in and run my mouth at you over the past 2 or 3 years. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
I think
yeah, and on that note, I'm about to crack this bottle of Orval. it's not homebrew, but this is one of my top 10 beers, and it's what I'll be drinking while I once again and for the last time with you guys in my current incarnation run my mouth.
Well, we couldn't appreciate you being here more, Brian, and doing everything that you've done for the club over the year. I think you've sent us probably 400 or 500 different sachets of yeast that I've sent out to these guys, and we've brewed a lot of good beers and got a lot of people on that. We've changed a lot of minds about dry yeast, I think, over the last couple of years, especially within this club. So that is all due to you. We're stoked to have you, and we're going to be stoked to have you again in the future here with whatever you're doing. I'm sure you're going to be getting some knowledge for us to share down to the homebrewing community. So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
I just have
I
yeah, go ahead.
no, I appreciate that, Haven.
Yeah.
A lot means a lot.
Well, I got just a couple quick little pieces of business, and then I'll turn the floor over to Brian to we got some cool little things to chat about. Um, Average Brew podcast is out. That came out this week. So the Kentucky Commons that we brewed last quarter were tasted on the episode. Spoiler alert: the guys loved them. Marshall said it was his favorite episode out of the 9 so far. We've been doing this for almost 2.5 years now, and out of the 9 episodes so far, this was his favorite, which is kind of cool. Speaking of Average Brew, we have the single and the quad guidelines out right now. So the single is going to get brewed. Uh, of course, Brian sent us some Abbey yeast to use for that. So most of you guys, I think, have received that if you signed up for it. We're going to brew the single with that Abbey yeast, rack the single off the yeast cake, and pitch the quad on it. So we have enough yeast to ferment that quad. That's kind of the goal of this Average Brew. That single is going to be this quarter style, and then the quad is going to be the first style in 2025. So we're brewing it now ahead of time. The guidelines are out for the 2025 already. So we can have some time to age that sucker. And I can't wait to listen to the guys drink 10 or 12 quads on a podcast because they're going to get destroyed, and that's going to be a lot of fun. We have another fun activity we got planned for Average Brew for that quarter, since we won't be doing our normal process, but we'll share more of that once we get. I don't want to count 2024 out yet. We got a long way to go still. Brew Club Circuit, summer comps are full, so we're going to be 5 comps in so far. We got Ozark Open, we got Red Earth Brewers releasing results this week, and then we have Hot and Human coming up in June. So those are full, so no more entries in those, but there are 4 more competitions coming up in fall. So this thing is not over. You guys got a chance to get on that leaderboard. The top so far, I think, if Trevor's still on here, he can correct me. I think it's going to be the top 10 places are going to get something. Of course, the top winner gets the Delta Firm tank, which is crazy. Plus, I mean, that thing is going to come chock full with stuff. So we're going to get the prize structure. We have one more call with a sponsor this week, and then we're going to get the prize structure settled out, get things all organized, and then we'll get that launched for you guys to take a peek at, so you know what you're competing with. Tilt by, I don't know if Trevor's on here anymore. I think he might have stepped off. The Tilt group buy, so we have the Tilt Pro Mini that's closing, I think, on. Oh, Trevor, is that you?
I'm here, Haven. I'm
Okay.
chopping onions and cutting peppers in the background. Tilt by, let's see, mini upgrade. So if you have a V2 and you want to upgrade to a mini, that's closing Sunday. Details are in Discord. If you're not in Discord, you should be, because you're missing out on some cool shit. If you want to buy a new Tilt Mini, so this is the Pro version as well. That group buy also closes on Sunday. Tilt wrenches also close on Sunday. And then just open today. Thanks, Andre and Eric. You both did the exact same thing at the exact same time, which I need to now resolve. But we have for a V2 tilt, so the OG, if you will, the bigger one, the smaller one, sorry. Not the mini, but the smaller, older style, the standard style. That will close in 14 days. Based on Shopify's integration with Group Buys, it's kind of terrible. Its first purchase kind of starts the timer. So that'll close, I suppose, Wednesday in 2 weeks. But you don't want to miss out. I don't know if another opportunity like this will show up. And the deals that we were able to secure for Tilt, I mean, Tilts are never on sale, like ever. I think the Brew Club is the only time that Tilts have ever been on sale that I've ever seen.
And
I've been able to do it 2 years running. So like, what's the sales percentage? That's a good question, Evan. Let me pull it up in front of me. It's like 30 to 40% off, which is insane.
Yeah, 33 or something. I thought
Yeah,
that
so
was
for the Tilt Pro Mini, if you want a brand new one to add to your rainbow, I think I need like 3 more to have a complete rainbow, which would be pretty sweet. You're talking about 30% off upgrading from a V2 or a V3. So any of the ones that have a black circuit board in them, to a Tilt Pro Mini is going to be $44, which is kind of insane. Just to be able to upgrade to a brand new Tilt is fantastic. Tilt Wrench is 30% off, so that's like $5. Tilt V3 is 40% off, so you're looking at $80 in on that. And then if you want the large format one, it's called the Tilt Pro. It just doesn't have the newer upgraded or the smaller body, so it still has the upgraded signal strength for stainless steel fermenters, including up to like commercial barrel sizes. I have a request out to NOAA to figure out the maximum barrel size they tested with in their commercial crowd, but I'm gonna guess it's gonna be pretty strong. But it's 33% off, and that hasn't started yet. So if you want one of those, let me know and I can get you a link for that.
awesome.
I suppose the only other thing that I have, Haven, is in the Brew Club store. So that's thebrewclub.square.site. I added 3 new products just a couple weeks ago. There was some complaining around the group that we didn't have trucker hats with our logos on them. So your wish is my command, and or I guess your command is my work, I suppose. So I stylized 3 different versions of trucker hats. There's a 5-panel, a retro, and a snapback. If you're a trucker hat individual, go and grab yourself one. They should be on the store now. And if you forget the link to the store, it's on our main website. At the bottom, there's a link at the little shopping cart or shopping bag thing. I forget what icon I threw on it, but there's a link to it from there.
Awesome. And I only got one more piece of news. We did bring on a new leadership member. I was getting my bike tires were getting worn out delivering all these packages. So I wanted someone to help with that. So we brought on Mr. Frank to help out. Just more people to take on some new projects that we're thinking about. We got a whole list of stuff that we want to tackle. A lot of the shipping took up a lot of my time. Not that I certainly didn't mind it, but it did take up a ton of time to coordinate some of these bigger merch shippings and stuff like that. So just to help spread that out a little bit on top of all the other stuff that we do, and just to continue on growing, we're going to bring on Frank to help out, especially with the shipping side of things and any other ideas that he has. We're pretty loose group. If someone has an idea, we just take it on and do it. So we're gonna hopefully Frank has a fresh set of eyes to bring onto this team, and it'll be fun. So everyone, Frank is now your boss as well. So. And with that, we'll turn it right back on over to Brian. I think he's got a couple cool topics to talk about, especially one that's been, I think, becoming a little bit more prevalent in the last couple of years is low or no alcohol brewing on the homebrew level. Because that, I think people are just becoming a little more health conscious and want that lower alcohol beer. So he's got some techniques to talk to us about. So I think biotransformation, I think too. So. Once he gets back to his chair, we'll chat.
Yeah, I want to start with biotransformation just because it's one of the things that I've been working on. If I cut out audio, video, anything, Haven, like shoot me a text or something. And again, my apologies. There goes the video. My apologies if for the tech
If,
issue.
and if it helps, Brian, if you click the more up at the top of the screen, the three dots with more, you can turn off incoming video too. So you don't, I mean, you won't see our beautiful faces, but that'll save some bandwidth on your end too if you want to do that.
Cut out.
All right, how's this? It's okay.
There we go.
All right, cool.
Awesome.
Okay, so yeah, two things I kind of want to like ramble about here for a minute. One is biotransformation, and the other one is the NAB lab. So no alcohol, low alcohol brewing. And the reason I want to do these two is because hazy is still a thing, and really hazy what makes those hazies good, in my subjective opinion, is efficient biotransformation controls. So, and this is all dry hopping, which, has been done, with brewing since the IPAs of the, mid 1800s or so. That's really where this started, in prevalence, aside from maybe, the herbaceous gruits, that were, used in beer and brewing before what we know as modern brewing with hops. And and in dry hopping, or the use of any sort of hops in application post whirlpool, right? So this is where when I'm talking about biotransformation, it's in this um point in the brewing and slash fermentation process. You're throwing a shit ton of stuff into the medium, once you've like basically pulled everything together, which in basic brewing you've done through mashing, boil, whirlpool, hop additions there. Like this is all the shit that we learned on, from the get-go. And now we're starting to dump stuff in on the back end. My personal experience has always been on the cold side. So let a fermentation get through, uh, get the yeast out of the way, and then incorporate, your hop either through cold, straight cold addition or hot slurry, which is one of the things that we employed at Bridgeport. So, and it's basically we had a shit ton of T90 pellets, and instead of like dumping that into a horizontal conditioning or a horizontal bright, so think about, a big 80 barrel tank laying on its side instead of standing straight up with a cone. You're not going to get much circulation through there. So if you mixed those pellets with hot water to basically create a mud or a slurry, and then pump that into your tank, and then you could get some recirculation and mixing around. But again, this is all cold side. So now we're talking about warm side fermentation activity with between the yeast and the hops. right? So digging deeper into, why do we get a different character out of the beer, in that process? It's not because of the hop character in and of itself. It's because of the enzyme expression from the yeast in that warm environment that it's been fermenting at, been like operating at. It's these enzymes specifically that are driving some of the accentuated hop character through biotransformation. So biotransformation is just a phrase word, a keyword, a blah, for saying it's the interaction between hops and yeast. Yeah. And it Go ahead.
No, I was just yeah.
I got a question. If you're doing this on the cold side and you've already separated the yeast out, are you still having viral transformation?
Exactly not. And excellent question. You are eliminating this enzymatic activity out of the equation, and
Yeah.
it's like this cold alcohol extraction of character out of the hops. So, and when you talk about West Coast IPAs, this is West Coast IPA. None of us were throwing fucking hops in during active fermentation before 2000 and what? I started in 92. Yeah, everything that we were doing is on the cold side. So the character that you're going to get from Cascades, from Chinooks, from Centennials, and apologies for, just classic C's, but I'm old. Uh, that is going to be very different than if you jack it in when it's still rocking, and got 4 to 6 Plato to go at 68 to 74 degrees. Why? Because the enzymes are more active at those temps than they are at a cold temp. So it's more like you're steeping a tea versus, oh no, we're actually like generating some flavor out of the fermentation. And that's what the art and the science of biotransformation really comes into play. So, and it's not just the timing and the temperature that's happening here. Um, um, it's the type of hop, the mash conditions. So you're talking about precursors, and specifically when it comes to thiols, right? Which is ultimately my big bitch about this little biotransformation tirade that I'm going on here at the moment, is that you're fucking around with the sulfur fractions when it comes to thiols. And if you are creating the conditions up front before your traditional fermentation cycle has occurred, I think my subjective geriatric position is that thiols, by and large, do not contribute a positive uh, character to beers. So you really have to be gentle with the thiol aspect, which is very different from the beta glucosidase, the tropical, uh, uh, side of making these kinds of beers. That we're talking about yeast. There is no such thing as a thiolized yeast, right? There's no thiols that are coming from yeast. The only thing that are coming from the yeast is the ability for the and the yeast to pull these fractions out of um, the fermentation medium, the wort, the beer that you're making at the moment. So what Omega or Berkeley or fuck, I think Escarpment is maybe dicking around with this as well, is that these yeast just have the beta lyase switch turned on. So it's just bam, like full on. If you've had thiolized beers or tried to make them where they come off swampy or sewagey or composty or just too just muddled, like rotten mango muddled, too much pungent fruit, then that, I think, what makes a good beer and will knock that back in check is if you co-inoculate with a base strain. So pick your thiolized strain, co-inoculate 25-75%, and that's going to put a touch of that note into your beer without it being overwhelming, overpowering, where it comes off muddy. How many of you had a thiolized muddy beer?
Oh, yeah, all of them taste like overripe, kind of rotten tropical fruit to me.
Exactly. And I don't think with those strains, those are the thiolized strains, right? Like, I don't think there's anything that you can do with those because the switch is just either on, off, go or not.
Mhm.
So co-inoculating that, and again, I think 25% of a thiolized strain to 75% of something base would really help make those beers shine much more than they do and accentuate what it is that I think that you're trying to do as a brewer. Now, that being said, if one of the things that I'm proud of Lallemand doing is the fact that they assay their yeast in both what they express in beta glucosidase and beta lyase, right? And when we're talking thiols here, we're talking beta lyase. That's the enzyme that is, oh fuck, what's the term? I'm not thinking of it right now. That's the one that converts those precursors into that sulfur fraction. So, I mean, what was the powder? Phantasm,
Uh-huh.
right? Yeah. So, fuck, throw Phantasm and one of the thiolized, GMO strains out there, and yeah, you're gonna have a fucking muddy mess. But the precursors, which is what that Phantasm was, which was like a grape skin or a grape, it was a grape byproduct that encouraged the creation of those flavors from that extreme expression of beta lyase from those thiolized strains. You can get the BRY 97 or oh geez, the Kolsch strain, which it doesn't exist anymore now for you guys. But now, I mean, several of those strains expressed high in beta lyase. So just naturally, without turning the switch just fully on, like, dude, sulfur fractions, right? Skunk's ass. You're tickling the tiger's tail there. Why would you want to just bring that full on into your beers? A touch of ass, just fine, right? That's okay. It's got to be in the mix there, in the melange. So that's been my issue with. So the two things when it comes to biotransformation is, one, you're doing it cold versus doing it warm, right? And it's a different mechanism into extracting the flavors from the hop through that temp and timing. And then two is the enzyme expression, either from the on-off switch, through a thiolized yeast, whatever the fuck that means, or through an assayed yeast. So maybe it's the London 3, maybe it's the 1078, maybe it's the Verdant. I might go to work with Y East. That's why I just threw that number out there. So
Just an aside, didn't you used to work for Y East?
Yeah, for 3 years.
No shit. All right. Awesome.
Yep. So part of my tenure, and I've always stayed friends with Jenny, and Dave is Logsdon. He's way out of the picture now, but they had triplets, and two of the three daughters are involved in trying to take over the company, but they don't. They're into it, but they've never made beer. They don't know what they're doing. So we'll see. Yeah.
Awesome.
Side note. But yeah, so I think when it comes to, if you're trying to like effectively employ biotransformation, air quotes here, into your brewing process, understand that it's complex, temp, time, the strain that you're using, all of those things make a huge impact, and it's half of the fun and one of the tools as a brewer that we can pull out of the belt to make our beers a little something.
Are there any Lallemand strains that are more prone to unlocking those or doing whatever they do with those styles than others? I know kind of Chico and stuff like that is not, but like Verdant maybe?
So that Verdant strain, the Kolsch strain, even though you guys can't really get it as a homebrew item, it's been discontinued. Lallemand is going to launch a new strain here in June called Pomona. They worked with Richard Priest up at Escarpment, taking one of their liquid strains, and that Lallemand is like launched the London Fog. That's a high beta lyase strain in a dried form, the Cal Ale, and then they're doing a Munich Lager. Dude, I'm glad they didn't like fire me until after Craft Brewers Conference in Vegas. One, Vegas is fun for a minute. The best thing about Vegas though was White Castle, which we don't get here in fucking Oregon. And right between the hotel and the conference center was a White Castle, and dude, I ate there every day. And
I'm guessing you were drunk, because White Castle's only good when you're drunk.
Oh, bullshit! I call bullshit at 10 a.m. That's a great hangover breakfast. Before going into the conference.
We got crystals down here.
Hungover, you were still a little drunk.
Yeah.
That's the barometer.
I'll take our Waffle House over those liquefied White Castle burgers any day.
Yeah. We got crystals down here in Florida, so it's pretty much the same. Same greasy burgers.
No, we got Waffle House.
Burgers.
Waffle House was no. Waffle. We actually had to drive up to Chicago here recently, and White Castle is liquefied burgers. It's so gross.
And it was gross. They're these like gummy little like blobs, but it's delicious in its own special way.
Sometimes the gross is what you want.
Exactly. Much like a thiolized beer, every once in a while, fine, but good Lord, not it. But this also, I mean, taking a step back, I also bitch about one, that's not my flavor profile. Like, right, the whole papaya mango tropical, game that you get from a thiolized beer. That's a total subjective bitch on my part. The other thing is those beers that have that haze element. So naturally, if if part of that haze element is a yeast element, then those hazy beers are going to taste like that. The other issue I have, and why I love West Coast versus East Coast when it comes to IPAs, is clarity. Is that I think flavors are more pronounced and bright and sharp without the particulate in solution. And I don't know any science behind that. The masking, the mudding, the coating of the taste buds, the blah 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 blah. But I am on the hunt for any excuse to bitch about stylized beer. So I appreciate you guys letting me ramble about biotransformation. And now on to the next thing, unless anybody's got any questions.
I got a question. When you're
Yes, sir.
cold hopping and the yeast has already been removed, is this before you carbonate the beer?
Yeah. So it's usually in conditioning. And what I've done just personally really, dude, I don't homebrew all that much. It's all been commercial brewing.
Right.
But in commercial is, once you get that yeast, the majority of the yeast and the trub out of the cone, get your hops in there and then just run that through, like you can do the hot slurry like I talked about earlier,
Right.
or dump in T90s cold. Flower hops in this case wouldn't work, but then just let the pump run for like a good hour.
Yeah, because I'm a pressure fermenter, so I'm wondering how the carbonation will affect all of that.
I mean, that's a good question. You're not going to get any circulation, through there. So what you're looking for is, and you don't have any fermentation activity going on. So you're looking for straight carbonic maceration, of the cellular material in that hop.
Okay.
Good. Yeah. Good.
So I
Good
was
question.
wondering how if the pH does change, how that would affect the hops but that's a whole nother issue that you don't have to deal with, so you wouldn't know.
And I don't think pH would do much there.
Okay.
You're looking for some sort of action, some sort of mechanism to, suck something out of that hop. Just sitting there static, it's going to work. It's going to take time, and that's just through what, absorption.
So a better option would be offline, make a slurry, a little bit of water, or maybe the beer, whatever, make a slurry and then dump the slurry in. And you still need to recirculate the slurry a little bit.
No, like that slurry does a couple of things. Like hot water slurry does a couple of things. One, it breaks down the pellet.
Right.
It does a touch of isomerization, right? So you're going to get some bitterness out of that. But
Okay.
just like you're making tea, right?
Right.
You're gonna throw a tea bag into a cold cup of water or a hot cup of water. So little devil, do you?
Yeah. Okay.
Isn't that what dip hopping is, if I understand correct, or is that I haven't looked very much into it, but that's kind of sounds like the process I've heard of.
Dip hopping?
Yeah, have you heard of that?
Fuck no, dude, I'm old.
I it's something I don't know, and someone maybe with more knowledge can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like you add hops, then you add hot water, but then you add the cold fermented beer to that. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, the wort to it.
I think
Yeah,
Is
that,
there?
isn't dip hopping? Isn't dip hopping where you put the wort in on the
yeah,
you put some of
I
the hot
think,
you put some of the hot wort into the fermenter and
Or hot
onto
water.
directly onto hops, and then you drop and then you ferment. You drop it on. I believe that's what dip hopping is.
Oh.
It sounds like
Yep.
it's not very well defined yet, to be honest.
yeah, I think dip hopping is earlier in the brew process. Like you put the wort on top of the slurry, but it's the same concept, right? Like,
I've used it for
Oh.
hop water.
like
I'll add
you
hot water to the
So you're
fermenter, and
transferring out of a fermenter into a keg that has hops in the bottom. You're dropping the wort on top of the hops in the secondary or finished keg.
sounds like the same process. You're still making hop tea equivalent, but you're putting hop dipping, quote unquote, is before. And it sounds like he's describing when you dry hop, add the slurry, so whatever, different timing.
Oh.
Same thing, but I don't know if that name hop dipping means anything. That's just the context I've heard it done, early on.
I want to come up with a process called flash hopping. I don't know what the process is going to be, but I like the name.
Do that. I like it.
Well, I could see with the dip hopping is if you don't have a conical fermenter and you need to rack it off, so that way you can't just dump the hops directly into the fermenter because you have the yeast at the bottom. So the dip hop, you're transferring to another device and basically separating the yeast off and then adding the hops with the wort.
Well,
Commercially, you could just drop it out the bottom and you're done.
what you guys are talking about here, or really referencing, is that temp and timing, right? And so, and how just those two factors right there can be, make it a measurable difference in the character and the quality. And I wouldn't say the quality of your beers, but the character of your beers that that come out on the end. So, and that is half the fun of brewing.
Yeah.
So I've done dry hopping where I took 3 days where a beer's almost finished, just right at the very tail end of fermentation, and then I close transfer it into a keg with hops, and so it's 3 days there, and then I close transfer it again out of that keg. What is that called?
Delicious.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
As long as it's off the yeast, you're good.
Yeah.
So-
No, I don't know what that process is. I mean, it's some sort of, modified, dry hopping, scenario. But what I love about this like cold extraction is that I I'm not that bright when it comes to like the sensory evaluation of hops. I know there's a few varieties that I like know and love, but again, because I'm old, and these are the ones that I've like just like used commercially, gravitated toward. They're the C hops, Chinook being at the very top of the fucking list. I grew up in the Willamette Valley. My neighbors were, the Capital Farms. They grew for Anheuser-Busch. It's the closest expression of that hop out of the field and rubbing through my hand and into the beer is through a cold steep or cold extraction kind of a process. Whether that's true or not, that's what I've like worked on, through my professional brewing career. And I spent 18 years on deck. I've always felt, from that like point A to I want that shit in my beer. Like that's the best mechanism to get there, not through enzyme expression, lyase, glucosidase, warm side, ferment, any of that business. It's that cold steep that gets me there. But dude, that's my MO, in my attitude and approach to brewing. Which, unless anybody's else got any question, leads to my second topic.
Actually, I got one. So,
Yes, sir.
so yeah, so you said with those stylized strains, you do a 3-to-1 strain. So I've got the Lunar Crush from Omega, which is the Mexican lager strain. I've also got the White Labs non-stylized version of that strain. So currently I have a freezer bank, so it's a 3-step process. So if I were to mix 3 of the White Lab strains to 1 of the stylized strain from the get-go and step it up 3 times, could I still expect to have the 3-to-1 ratio before I pitch that into my beer?
Dude, I have no fucking idea. That is, I mean, you're propping those 2 strains, and ultimately what it comes down to is which one is more dominant, right? And I don't
Right.
know that answer. My guess would be the Omega strain, and it would dominate over the White Labs gig. Just because of the fact that I think they've CRISPR'd that critter, and White Labs doesn't really fuck around with that. But if you prop those up individually, yeah, and then get them to a volume to where you could do a 3-to-1, and then throw that into your ferment, because that's what you want to do, is have all that prop going on. Yeah.
Can I ask you about a question about the new yeast that you mentioned that's coming out? Is that, I think you called it Amara? Is that replacing the Kolsch-ish, or is that related to each other at all?
No, the Pomona. The Pomona does not, I don't think, would make a good Kolsch. If you're going to use a Lallemand strain to try to do a Kolsch, use the Nova Lager. Makes a killer Kolsch. Yeah, super light, clean, no sulfur. There's a touch of fruit. Underpitch a bit if you want to like bump that up. But Nova Lager is making a great Kolsch. The reason Lallemand killed the Kolsch is we dumped about 3 batches to every one we could like get through micro and quality, and it was a yeast of diminishing return.
Is the new Pomona yeast have anything to do with, Pasadena, have anything to do with the city?
Pomona?
Is it Pomona or Pasadena? Sorry, Pomona.
No, Pomona. Pomona was apparently the Greek god of, or goddess of, citrus.
Oh.
Yeah, and some of the trial batches were like big tangerine when it came to a sensory profile on that yeast.
Sounds interesting. All right.
Hey, Brian, one more. Sorry.
Yeah.
You mentioned
all good.
something. You mentioned that when you were dry hopping professionally, you would turn on a pump and pump the yeast around. And yeah, I've talked to a couple professional brewers who've told me same kind of thing. One of the things I've been doing is sort of dry hopping less amounts. I do happen to be lucky enough to have a conical, and I use CO2 to kind of get it moving to kind of not have it sit there static, especially when I make quite a lot of hazy IPAs actually, right? And I'm curious how often, so if they're pumping this, are they pumping this like the entire time? How often is that moving in your experience? Because I agree with you, or I feel like static hops aren't going to do much just sitting there.
Yeah. So, one, I wasn't pumping it around with the yeast.
Yeah, once the
Right.
yeast is out, it's usually how I'm doing this, by the way. I dump the
Yeah.
yeast. I will put it on like 1 psi of pressure and then I will actually add more pressure to move it around a little bit. And I actually broken up, like, let's say I was going to dry hop with 6 hops. I'll do it like 2 ounce or 1 ounce a day, then dump those and add new ones so they don't clog up so I can move them around. Something I've been messing around with lately. Gives me more kind of hop, I'd say, aroma, but it's, it's something I'm doing as opposed to just dumping 6 or 12 ounces in a fermenter and just letting it sit there. So
No,
I was just
interesting. And by doing that, like timed addition, especially in a cold environment, I think you're pulling like the delicate volatiles out of the hop, via that process. But no, when I would recirculate, like I would only do it for, an hour or two.
okay.
Basically while I CIP'd the kettle, and clean my shit up and
Gotcha. No, because I'm just like putting some CO2 on, getting the hops to move from the bottom, and then kind of leaving it alone. Then maybe doing it again. Then kind of once those hops settle, dumping them. Because the reason I'm doing it, it's not for a purpose of that I want to stagger the way the hops are in, but I can't get them to move because I put a sight glass in so I can see the bottom of it. If I put too many in, just given the size of the 7-gallon conch. So, but it has helped. Just moving them like maybe twice a day. So yeah.
and there is something to carbonic maceration, right? So, a high CO2 environment, in uh, um, in exposure with hops, is going to be, you're going to get a more dramatic pull out of that than, just like a flat word.
Thanks.
All right. So now you want to hear me talk shit for a little bit about NA beers?
Heck yeah.
Oh,
Why you-
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going to talk about how their botulism waiting to happen?
Botulism, yeah, listeria. I'm sure there's a few other, nasties, that'll grow, pathogenic, assholes that will grow in here. But there's a way to do it. There's a way to get away with it, right? The only way to do it is if you employ pasteurization.
Could you also use lowering the pH to
No,
food safe
not gonna.
levels?
No. That'll help, just like pickles. But have you ever had one of your nasty pickles from your grandma? I have. Yeah, that shit put me down. It's not good. pH is one of the controls. Yeah, before before the end of my tenure at Lallemand, I was working with Ben at Surly about chemical stabilization. The use of did I
Did he
cut
die?
out?
Oh,
I think he's gone. Oh, there he is.
there we
Am I
go.
there? Am I still on? All right. Perfect. I just saw a text from Haven, so I was just like, oh, fuck, they lost me. Um,
He was just explaining to you to disregard the old man.
uh, No, the use, chemical stabilization, potassium sorbate, metabisulfite, what winemakers and cider makers have used, for eons. The difference and the problem is that the proteins that are present in a wort medium or a malt medium are very different from those that are come from fructose or sucrose. So there's the issue, or yeah, one of the issues. So um, so NabLab, right? We're going to take 6,000 years of, you know, proven brewing science and say fuck you and throw all that out the window. Yeah, you're gonna have some problems. Like like there's yeah, we can get over history. We can, we're advanced civilization. We can do this, but it takes some fucking work. And to expect to do this, like if I was going to try to do this in my basement, like I would be scared. I would be scared. uh and even if you've got your shit together, you've got an RO, system, and two tunnel pasteurizers like Octopi or Untitled Arts does. Hang on a second.
The ability to have a sterile vessel.
Yeah, Untitled Art, what Brian just mentioned, that's right down the road from, well, I should say it's like an hour down the road from me. That is one ridiculous facility. The equipment that they have there is it's mind blowing.
Can you see my video?
Is that a
Oh,
commercial or is that homemade?
it's commercial and that's blown out. Non-alcohol. No
Even
shit.
under cold temperatures that does that?
I've never seen that before.
No, I'm keeping this can in the fridge and I'm just waiting for it to go. But, Sam, dude, I'm not tasting this can. Are you kidding me? There's no way I'm putting that in my mouth.
That's You'll go to the hospital after that. Yeah, Jesus. Have you emailed them on that, or have you reached out and told them about that?
Oh no, that's used. They made that with our. Sorry, I'm not with Lallemand anymore. So they made that with the Lona strain, right?
No shit.
Yeah. So, and even with like a tunnel pasteurizer, like fucking pasteurization in and of itself is an entire science, an art, based on time, temp, PU units, what it is that you're doing, protein loads, acid loads. Like it's again 6,000 years of accepted and safe brewing science out the fucking window. So why would you want to do this? Well, because it's a challenge and you're homebrewers. When I talked about earlier about making something that you have to like move, for money over the bar and for margin, as opposed to, no, I'm going to take this on, then this is what I kind of want to just talk to you guys about for a minute, in that it can be done. And the first thing that I want to say is maybe change your sights on no alcohol to low alcohol, right? Get 2 to 3% in there. Make it light, not for any, impact, There's going to be a flavor effect through fermentation. There is the metabolic uptake that helps clean up those beers, that removes that like wort, sweet, like just meh, meh, mud character. Like this beer is not done. Like it gets rid of that. Don't be hung up on the fucking 0.5 thing, right? That's a TTB. That's a that's a government, like, commercial restriction. As home brewers, I don't think you should be worried about that. Do something low, and that will help, with the pH, like you were talking about, with the use of maybe a chemical stabilization, with a water bath pasteurization. Then you can get something down to where it's safe, safe. Because yeah, botulism, listeria, like, I mean, pick your pathogen, that's going to grow in that medium. This is the big challenge, and can be like it could be a fun, this could be fun, to make a 1.5%, IPA that just like fucking tastes delicious, and that Uncle Larry can drink. Sure.
So on a homebrew scale, what kind of techniques would we employ to do that? I mean, we're pitching a standard kind of yeast, so how would we combat the fermentability of the wort? Just mashing high, or
No, dude.
what?
So, I mean, there's, you can imagine that NA is this huge segment of the industry, and there's a shit ton of money that goes into it. And one of the most, I think, dude, less is more innovative is the Go NA guy, or the Go dude from, he's like Chicago area. He's making a 2 to 3 Plato wort, super light,
Whoa.
mashing high, building the fucking, dextrins in the body, the backbone of, that wort, hitting it with, your standard yeast, and just, you know, doing something light. And he's making really good, flavorful beers. I mean, it's as simple as that. The less you put in, the less you're going to get out, and you know how to modify, the uh, you know, the work in order to do that. Flavor wise, you got a shit ton of hop options, all sorts of acids that you could, choose to throw in there to help balance, anything that's left out. Need some body, got lactose. Not that you want to throw that in there, but it's not going to ferment.
So how are you getting the body in a 2 Plato or 3 Plato beer? Like I have to imagine that tastes like thin and watery. Even with hop additions, that's just got to taste damn close to
Right?
hop water.
No, you got to mash high. You got to mash high, like
Mash super.
170.
No shit.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, did I not send you the NAB Lab, like best practices, the no low alcohol best practices?
I don't think so, no. And I looked it up. That's just the technical data sheet, right?
No, no. There's a procedural document.
Oh, no, I don't think I saw that.
Okay, I'll dig it out. And what I'm gonna do, Haven, is I have a brick of our Lona. So it's not R. I'm not with these assholes anymore. What the fuck am I talking about? The Lona strain is a hybridized strain that's actual. It's a SAT Cerevisiae strain that does not utilize maltose nor maltotriose. right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is Surly has picked this up, Sierra's picked this up. I mean 10 Barrel out here in Oregon. I mean there's a bunch of folks that have like used are using this because what it is, it's a again a hybridized yeast strain that will go through a metabolic cycle, just
Mhm.
not employing those malt sugars. It's just employing simple sugars, but in that process, cleans the aldehydes up that contribute to that like gummy, worty, unfermented kind of a character. And what Fermentus is using, I think, is like a Candia strain, or yeah, or Lasantia strain. Same with the AEB guys. These are non-sac strains that are being, used in trying to do this. But dude, the
Mhm.
the the Lona strain is something special and unique. But what I'm saying is, you don't need this. You can use your house, your whatever the fuck you want to, just you make your do a low OG wort,
Mhm.
and and modify the fuck out of that out of that wort, like on the upfront, hyper modify those sugars, make it to where it's supposed to be, unattenuative.
Mhm.
Stretch those sugar chains out. Use one of the non multitrios strains, right? Y East 1968, Lallemmand's Windsor. I'm sure BSI has one, Omega has one, White Labs has one, Inland Empire has one. I mean, they all have one.
Mhm. So with okay, say I'm gonna do a low alcohol pale ale or IPA, something hoppy. Are you adjusting your hopping rates? I have to imagine you have to decrease your IBUs, decrease your dry hop rate. I mean, how far are you decreasing that to get that same level of hoppiness, but not just destroy your palate with a shit ton of bitterness?
You tell me.
Oh,
I mean,
okay,
yeah, that's a great question. You know,
okay.
the fun thing about the development of that Lona strain with Lallemand was, the work that we did with Surly, with Mountains Walking, with Sierra, in the fact that, not just the hop choice by variety made an
Hmm.
impact, but uh, timing, volume levels, in addition to what other acids that you want to bring to the party, right? So, one thing I have been advocating with the commercial partners that I've been working with is using some sort of an acid blend, right? So not just alpha, or beta that you're getting, from the hops, and that bitterness, that character, but actually like malic, tartaric, citric, like these, stay away from lactic, stay away from phosphoric, like one's too slippery,
Hmm.
greasy, one's too sharp. 2% porter. Fuck yeah. I'll take that any day of the week, Um, as long as it's bright, it's got to have a
Okay.
touch of body in there, but it's got to have, those bright, that touch of hop, that light roast of the dude. Yeah. 2% porter. Send me some.
It's gone, dude. It's gone.
So, but what like you've got all these companies out there that have systems in place and dump a shit ton of money. Like I looked at the international brewing awards and then the WBC or the what the fuck was it, the world world
World
brewing
World Beer
whatever.
Cup.
Thank you. Where Sierra Black Butte won gold. And dude, that is a disgusting fucking beer. Not only is it a disgusting beer, but it's a poor. It is a. It's just it's a fail to like what it's supposed to represent.
I
And
don't think I've ever had that.
What style of beer was it?
no, it's Black Butte Porter, but the NA version.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Like okay,
Oh wow.
right. You're gonna make an NA version of that. So that's the CEO of Deschutes, Peter, who I'm already talking shit with about. I'm like, really? Gold for that? Are you fucking kidding me? He's a big airplane buff, and we've got a airplane museum out here in Hood River. So we've done the DC BA Hill thing. So I've got license to talk shit with that guy. I don't work for him. He can't fire me. I got nothing to sell him, so it's all good.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't.
But anyway, I've got a brick of Lona that I'm gonna send to you, Haven.
No shit.
And then yeah, it's something that
And
you
you
guys
have to
can't
use
really.
it all.
No, what you need is whoever your lab dork is, who might have a hood or the most sanitary guy that can like repack that. Because any touch of a maltose positive strain will send attenuation over the rails. But it's a fun bug to work with, and I've got one for you to share with your guys. Unfortunately, the Abbey is the last like oh shit, there goes the video. Uh, Yep. Is the last donation I'm going to be able to provide you, on the official basis.
Of course.
Um, but those assholes at Lallemand, they know who you are. They know how much you guys mean to me, and so just throw your request out, and if you don't get any answer back, then just CC me in, and I'll like, hey, motherfuckers, step up.
It's not going to be the same without you, Brian. This whole thing was. I mean, my wife always laughed because every time we got on the phone, I was always on the clock at work, and it would always be a 30-minute or a 45-minute, sometimes even an hour-long conversation that I'd log out of work just to sit and BS with you because we just got on every plethora of different topics and all sorts of shit, and it was so fun to talk to you. So it's not going to be the same without Mr. Brian Perkey on the other side of the other side of the email or the other line. It's going to be a little bit different. So we'll see what they say, but I mean we'll see what happens. I mean, we're gonna keep an eye on you and what you're doing and get you back on here because you're a big part of this and what's made this club successful. And I mean, if we continue with Lallemand, great. If we don't, great. We'll figure it out one way or another.
No, I've been doing this a long time. I've been fired before. I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, I'll talk shit about these guys, but I got a lot of good to say about Lallemand and what they've done. Uh, um, and yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be in touch. I'm on the Facebooks.
Oh yeah, you're not getting away from us that easy. That's for sure.
I nominate Brian to be on the new leadership board.
There we go.
Second.
We'll move you right to the top.
Don't make me second my own thing, Haven.
But no, those were the two things that I wanted to talk about, and then inadvertently there was a third thing that I needed to talk to you guys about. So, I have I've been doing the beer thing for a long time for a reason. You guys are a part of that. Um, um, there this specific space, what you guys do, again, you're scary, from like the commercial supplier guys, because it's not the craft crew that needs to make a buck. Like, you're in it for the love and the passion. You know, it's the questions go deep, and ultimately it's what drives our industry forward, because this group, your group, or your ilk, this is where the next round of commercial guys come from. You see what's going down with the AHA, and that whole fucking debacle. And I've read the forums, and we'll see the rise of the regional thing. You know, this club is the reincarnation of what Brewing Network was, 15, 20 years or so ago. Like, this means a lot, and I appreciate what you guys do. I appreciate you inviting me in, and yeah, I'll definitely be in touch, when I'm around in my next in the incarnation. All that being said, I got just one last thing to talk to you about your fucking Belgian, like, double pitch batch thing here, right? So right,
Yeah.
you're doing the single, and then you're doing the quad, or you're doing the golden and the quad, or the light and then the heavy, and all that business.
Yeah, we're doing the single and then the quad.
There you go. You will have a better beer your second round if you throw a shit ton of nutrient in up front on the first one, right? Even if you don't think you need it, which you don't, if you're just doing like a one-off burn, of the golden, whatever, it'll be fine.
Mhm.
But guaranteed, the you'll get a better quad. The fermentation will perform better if you nutrient that first pitch up front.
Is that
Would
because
you also say we should be oxygenating the first one or just the second one?
Dude, always oxygenate your wort.
I don't do it with dry yeast. I don't typically, but on a repitch I would.
Yeah, dude, do it up front as well.
Wow. So even for something, I mean, mid to normal gravity, say like 1050 or under, you'd still oxygenate
I
with
would.
dry yeast.
Yeah, yes, it will ferment. Yes, it will execute. It'll dry out. It'll attenuate. But the thing that you're not getting, the thing by not aerating your wort up front, is you're eliminating lysine, which is what yeast uses out of doesn't use oxygen. It uses lysine that's created from the O2. You don't get that out of just like a straight dry pitch. I mean, there is enough sterol in there, to ferment, but I think that it's a healthier ferment if you do aerate. And if you're not going to aerate, then throw a drop of olive oil into your wort, and that's enough lysine for the yeast to use.
I've heard that. I think Brulosophy did a show on that like 150
Dude,
episodes ago, and I thought they were nuts when they were talking about olive oil and
no,
beer.
no, actually, New Belgium did a huge commercial study. I think it's published in fuck NBA TQ from 15, 18 years ago.
I think that was one of the early episodes of the Brew Lab.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it
I
was
might
too,
be
but
wrong.
I think if now that I want to go back and watch it, if they added oxygen, because I believe the turnout was that the olive oil did nothing, but if they oxygenated it, the wort, then yes, the olive oil may not do anything. But if you don't oxygenate it, then what he's saying is maybe it will help.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't. I
Yeah.
remember my takeaway with that one. My memory was that they said that the olive oil is great, but the amount you need is so small that it's almost imperceptible. It's hard for homebrewers to get a dose that's small enough.
Wow.
Yeah, for a 5-gallon batch, it's the drop off of a needle.
Really?
Yeah, it's not a capful, it's a drop.
By the way, is it
And
just
then-
olive oil, or can it be? Because I have avocado oil. Would that be the same?
Dude,
Different.
Yeah, I've not seen any sort of a peer-reviewed study on avocado.
That'd be kind of, man, let's do that.
Yeah, but I like where you're going. Uh,
I guess I have to borrow a drop from olive oil from my neighbor then, I guess.
Just run over there with a needle and just dip it into his olive oil bottle and then run back home with it.
No, I had a shit talk session with one of the dudes from New Belgium about that study, and ultimately what they said was olive oil works. There's enough lysine, in trace amounts in order to, give the yeast what it needs to do in order to, get through its metabolic cycle. But it took an extra 18 hours. And when you're making,
Wow.
fucking 1,000 barrels of, flat tire at a time, that shit adds up. So that's why they dropped it. But I've in my cider making, because I really don't have an efficient way to, aerate my cider unless I, shake the hell out of it, is I'll use dry yeast, the Belle Saison in specific, and olive oil for my aeration.
Wow.
The extra lag time makes sense though, because when I aerate, I over aerate because I don't have the controls, and it almost always adds another 12 to 18 hours of lag time because the yeast has to deal with all that shit you just gave it. It doesn't speed it up in my situation. It's always slowed it down, but healthy fermentations.
Interesting. I always thought that olive oil thing was kind of weird, but I may have to give it a shot, especially in ciders. Yeah, that's a really good point because I struggle with getting that oxygenation in cider.
I will, Haven, I'll try to dig up that. I've got it saved somewhere in some file on a drive, that published study from New Belgium, where they looked at this, and it was an MBAA like TQ from 15 years ago or so. But the shit works.
I'd love to see it, especially if we can share it too in the brew club, that'd be cool. I think we're all about trying that kind of stuff, so I think that'd be cool.
Yep. Well, gentlemen, everybody, Junior there, Nathan, who's that?
Hey Brian, it's been a pleasure. Hey, did you ever get a chance to use that Doug's rub? I think I heard something.
Use that what?
Haven, was this the guy I sent the barbecue rub to?
Yeah, Brian, you use that on something wrapped bacon wrapped jalapenos.
I sent you an alt and some barbecue rub.
Yeah, that was when we sent you all those alt beers.
There it is.
There we go.
Why is it so full?
Doug's rub.
I'm rationing. God damn it! It's good stuff.
Just reach out to Haven if you ever need any more. He knows a guy.
No, appreciate all of that. Yeah, and the time spent with you guys. So thank you much. And yeah, like I said, I'll be back in my next incarnation, wherever that is. And yeah, we can have another chat if you guys are into it.
Absolutely. Well, I will certainly be keeping an eye on what you're doing, whatever you're doing. I don't know if that's Doug's microphone freaking out. There we go. I'll be watching you for sure to see what you're doing. I'll be keeping in touch, and we'll like the hat, by the way. That's pretty. Yeah, look at
So do I.
that.
I've never seen that before. I don't know what that is.
So yeah, we will be watching you. We'll be keeping in touch, and wherever you end up next, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of knowledge to pass along and to share and to chat and to share a drink with. So we will. I think I'm pretty sure, Frank. I think you've been at pretty much every meeting that we've had, even though this is your first one as leadership. I think Brian is the most repeated guest we've had. I don't think we've ever repeated anybody except Brian.
No, I think that's right.
I think Brian's been every single year because it's so fun. I remember the first year you had a bottle of scotch and you were drinking out of that, and it was like a 3.5 hour meeting, and we were all freaking toasted at the end. So it has been such a fun time with you, man. And shit, this is not going to be the last time, that's for sure.
I'll say my
He's
favorite
getting
meeting was that impromptu collab we did with Nova and Diamond. That was pretty cool.
He's got the scotch.
Gosh, first.
Brian, thanks for all you've done for us here in the crew club. And it's time for this old man to go to bed.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your time, you guys. Again, thank you so much. It means a lot. It's one of the reasons why I do this. So it's because of you guys. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks everyone in the Brew Club. Thank you guys for sticking around tonight through the technical difficulties. I'm glad we were able to get Brian on. We were gonna hold up. Brian was gonna call me, and then I was gonna hold up my cell phone to my microphone, and he was gonna talk. It was gonna be a whole thing, but glad we got it figured
Wait,
out.
are you saying Teams let us? Are you saying Teams let us down again?
You're on here, aren't you, Doug?
Shocking.
We're gonna get it figured out one of these years. Don't worry, Doug.
Google Meets is free.
I don't think it's us. I think it's them, but okay, no problem.
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate your time tonight, buddy.
Yep.
Have a good evening, guys.
Yep. Cheers.
Later.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.